Assalamu alaikum. I am Brother Najee Muhammad. Welcome to the Roundtable.
Assalamu alaikum. Praise the Lord. Shalom. Hotep. What's up? In the spirit of unity, my name is Brother Gamel Aziz with the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia. Welcome to the Roundtable.
Peace. This is Brother Stanley. Welcome to the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia Roundtable. Peace.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Brother Leroy. Welcome to the Roundtable.
We'd like to start this roundtable discussion, sharing with the audience what the discussion is around. As we see, we're trying to bring information to the viewers, or at least to our people, so we can start to see what is the source of some of this organization, this unity, and disdain for each other that is occurring, that goes way beyond what we are here and discuss in the places that we're going. Mm-hmm. Because when we look at this particular topic we're going to cover tonight, it's very seldom talked about in the vein that we're going to be talking about tonight at the Black Male Community Roundtable discussion. And what the topic is going to be about tonight is why and what makes the black man in particular so haughty and so adversarial with his brother. And looking at our history and trying to put something together that we can see the source of it. Because as we observe, there is a lot of animosity, a lot of violence being perpetrated, black males in particular against black males. And as we think about it, if we go back into our ancestral experience, especially the slave experience, and see how our great-great-grandfather had been demasculated as a result of the white slave master coming into the slave quarters and raping either our great-great-grandmother, our great-great-aunt, our great-great whatever, even the male members. So when we look at it from this perspective,
right.
Here I'm a black man in slavery. I have a slave cabin, and I got my wife and my children in there. And this slave master decide that he want to come and have sexual intercourse with any one of the members of my family.
Right.
I'm being the male member of the family, and supposed to be the protector of the family, but because we are our ancestors in this slave situation, even though I want to attack the slave master, but I can't do it, and as a result of my not being able to do it, I am now demasculated in my spirit. Now, when you look at that their experience, and a lot of times we don't think about that experience because we look at it as if that was hundreds of years ago. But we have to realize that we are just a byproduct of our ancestors. We're sitting here right now. My great-great-great-grandfather's spirit is still moving through me, and his experience is in my experience, as in my DNA, in my gene pool.
Yes, sir.
So even though I have not had that experience, but it's still in our psyche. So when we look at it from this perspective, and putting ourselves in our great-great-grandfather position, here the slave master came in, raped whatever member of the family, and now I go out into the slave quarters, and the first male slave that look at me, I have to be able to now take this demasculation and demonstrate to somebody that I still have some masculation or manhood in me. So the first male slave that look at me cross-eyed, what you looking at?
Yes, sir.
And that starts the confrontation. But when we look at the source of it, it's all of this is connected to us as black men trying to demonstrate to somebody that we still have some masculinity left.
Okay.
And as I think about it, and as we think about it and we talk about it, maybe we can start to see what it is that makes us as black males not have patience with each other. Maybe when we see these incidents occurring, that we can start identifying what is the source of it as compared to putting the blame on each other. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let me chime in on it real quick because you mentioned something very important, Brother Stanley. You were talking about, in reference to the Willie Lynch and different things that happened to our ancestors that really plays a prominent part in demasculizing the black male. But there's some progressive and up-to-date relative incidents of this demasculating process that makes a male want to bolster his masculinity.
Right.
Take, for instance, when you create an economic situation where a man has it very difficult, the black man, to take care of his wife, his women, and his children, he feels demasculated. He can't get a job. When we have certain institutions that, say for instance, our family court system, which is archaic and needs to be revamped and just changed, that's definitely seem like it just stamps down the black male. And we have these situations. So in his psyche, he's demasculated. So when he's confronted with a situation, now it's no balance and it's hyper to his own people, his own kind, because he's trying to prove in like a situation that we find ourselves in North America, an oppressed people. We are oppressed constantly. So when he gets a little blemish or a little eyesight to express some masculinity, because we know that we can't express this masculinity in certain arenas. Right. So it comes out after being pressed down and beaten down, it comes out on each other. And this is something that's not happenstance. You know, Willie Lynch talks about energy that would turn, or a system that will return on its own axis. So, and it's propagated in the media, you know, through the music and the negativity and the negative program. See, it's a psychological thing, and one of the things it talks about in the Willie Lynch letter, that it takes a phenomenon to turn some of this stuff around.
Correct.
And I believe that phenomenon is knowing ourselves, knowing who we are, where we came from, knowing our illustrious history, not just a 1 month, or not just the history of our kidnapped Africans after slavery, but how about before slavery?
Correct.
And in knowing a lot of these things, I think if our people learn these things, it raises up your morale, it raises your esteem, because you know your greatness.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that you say that. In this bag here, one of Willie Lynch's statements as he began his talk. In this bag here, I have something that will control the Negro mind for a minimum of 300 years. There are people that believe that this writings of Willie Lynch is fictional. If you believe that, all well and good. But let's talk about what he said. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing you both say is right here and structured in the book. Mm-hmm. And we see it plainly. As I was listening listening to you both, and thinking about our subject matter here today before getting here, my mind went into an understanding or a perspective of prehistoric history. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, our teacher, had said that when you hear the Caucasian use the word prehistoric, he's really talking about before him. Mm. But the depictions that I can remember as a child watching television, if one of the cavemen jumped on a deer and was out there eating it raw, and another one came up next to him and even touched her, he would go off. With no language, he would just go off on him. So the depictions that we're carrying out, as Brother Stanley has so beautifully said earlier, it's in our genetic pool. But when we were brought over here, and in that 64-year process of making this slave mind, what they were able to produce was who they actually were. The worst part of them. In 1959, a movie came out, a documentary by a man named Mike Wallace, one of their best at that time. It brought the Nation of Islam from ignominy. They thought they were doing something that was going to destroy or hurt, but it actually boosted.
Yes,
Album was present. The name of the documentary was The Hate That Hate Produced.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Now, what they wanted to do was make it look like the hatred, what they wanted to call hate teachings that Elijah Muhammad was teaching, was based on other things and not what it actually was. The thing that it actually is that we're found emulating the prehistoric mindset, the old hatred of black, and carry it forward.
Exactly.
The hate that hate produced, we're looking at the original haters.
Correct.
And we learned our mannerism from them. But now it's called, as you said a little earlier, beloved brother Kamal, black on black crime. What is that?
What is that?
Yeah, what is that? So I just wanted, as we were talking, I'm listening to these things and I'm thinking about what was it that produced it? Now, prior to our touching base here, there was already a hate of black going on before that. On that island of Palan, 59,999 people together with a plan, a birth control plan, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, to destroy black. And those were black people. So even before the Caucasian got on the planet, there was a plan to do something about black. Just wanted to throw that in and get us rolling a little.
Right. You know, when I look at the civil rights movement in the 60s, and I think I did mention this before, when they would hold the posters up, and the men would hold this big sign up, say, "I am a man."
Yes, sir.
And you know, when I look at that, it's like, well, we know we know you're that, but what made them do that? Because, you know, when you look in the scripture where God said, "Let us make man," the man that was in control of bringing black people here in America, he said, "No, I'm not gonna make no man, no woman. I'm gonna make boys and girls. I'm gonna make them submit to me." And basically, that's what they did. You know, they said that, you know, the slaves came here, what, 1619?
That's what they say. That's right.
See, but when you look at it, down
Let me help you out a little
Yes.
bit. Let me help you out. We have to remember, even in that thought process, there wasn't slaves. They was kidnapped Africans that was brought here to be converted into slaves.
Right. Yes, sir.
So when we mention that, that period, we got to remember that on them ships, there wasn't slave ships. They was ships that had kidnapped people.
And you know what, Brother Stein, I really appreciate you doing that, because you know, our minds is just so much into what we have became.
Yes, sir.
And what we have produced, as far as, you know, from generation from generation, and how we have became of a people in this country. And again, I'm glad that you mentioned that, and that you said that, because we were not slaves.
Correct.
We was in our own land, in our native land, minding our own business, doing our own thing.
Correct.
And here go a people who did not know anything about building a civilization or doing anything. They came to kidnap us to build their own reality, their own world.
That's
no
the
doubt.
truth.
But that's going back into the time that they said was 1619. Now, when you look, you know, at 1619, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, no, it wasn't 1619, it was 1555. So in between that time, 1555 and 1619, he was producing, the white man in this country was producing a boy.
Correct.
That's what he was doing. He was taking everything away from us, a guy, our religion, our culture, you know, he just took our sanity away from us.
Correct.
Right.
So now when you look at this America today, and you look at particularly black people in America, you know, America have became a manufacturer of making niggas and Negroes.
Correct.
This is what America is. America is a manufacturer that makes niggas and Negroes.
Yes.
And we became helpers of that. You know what I'm saying? And I think one of the biggest things that we have that really bring us short in loving one another. And it so happened, I went to Chicago and I heard Minister Louis Farrakhan, Savior's Day. I want to say Happy Savior's Day. And the minister said this in his lecture. He said, one of the biggest things that we have within the black community is envy.
That's what he said.
Envy. He said envy is the thing that really is hurting us. You know, so you know, I have a book here that talks about envy. And when I read some of the parts of here, which I will, you know, part of through this, you know, this talk that we have, I'm gonna go into envy, where in fact part of that is that when one having something and I don't have it. And one of the most beautiful things about Islam is what I want for myself is what I want for my brother or I want for my sister.
Right.
And that is one of the formula that we need to bring about unity and love for each other. Because if you don't have it and I have it, if any way that I can help you out to get it, I'm gonna go ahead and do that for you. But we have became so selfish in this mentality of acting like niggas and Negro. I got mine, you gotta get yours. You know, and long as we have that type of attitude, we'll never get nowhere. We all have to help each other. Only time that I need to look down at my brother or my sister when I'm bringing them up.
Correct.
I should never have to look down and just look down and leave you down there like that. I need to help you, pull you up, put you up on my level. That's right.
Right.
You know, one of the
that-
things that Brother Leroy had stated when he was talking about, and it's very important when we talk about hate, or the hate that hate produces. When you constantly instill a negative outlook on individuals, it turns almost inward to a sort of self-hate. Now, when we have this self-hating energy, it's hard to raise yourself up to a higher mental function such as love. Because if Earth, Wind, and Fire made a song, and I love this, they had a verse in there that says, you can't give what you never had.
Never had.
So when you get a number of individuals to hate themselves, now that spawns an atmosphere of disunity. Without the disunity, without unifying, because before we were a unified society before we met this white man that brought us here to this land, and he's done everything in his book, as it's written in that book, the Willie Lynch letter, to look at the differences amongst us so that we can't unify. It's been perpetuated, a lot of this self-hate stuff, the images we see of each other, a bunch of negative. You talked about the Negro or the nigger. And it's my contention, as well as with yours, that this Caucasian has, I don't look at the word, I use the word, I have no problem. Because I don't look at the word as a term of endearment or something we should be calling each other. But I look at it as a scientific, man-made aberration of an African person. This self-hatred that we doused with, it produces something other than what the Creator created us to be, as loving, caring individuals without envy and jealousy and hatred for one another.
Right.
And what we got to take a look at is a lot of the external factors that are produced in us, that's programmed in us every day, constantly being bombarded into our spirits, that cause us to want to puff up or be extra masculine, or the ego, inflate the ego, where we got to be the head nigga in charge and stuff like that, instead of working as a collective unit.
Right.
And that's the spirit, that's the African spirit, the collective unit. But we bombarded in a society now is just like you said, I got mine, get yours, and it's perpetuated and it's played out progressively in a whole lot of different ways. It's like the same philosophies that we find in that Willie Lynch letter, it's still being perpetuated, but in different forms. It's like progressive, and that's causing a lot of the situation is being played out how we act towards each other. It's being played out in what we see with the with our youth, battling each other, shooting each other, and you throw drugs and guns into a mix of people
gangster rap.
And gangster rap. I want to say one thing about, and you said something very interesting, and something went off in my mind when you talked about the hate that hate produced. And I remember, I'm gonna share a little bit about myself, because I always wasn't blacked out. I always wasn't conscious what was going on. And I remember as a child, as a youth, as a teenager coming up, I remember what was prophesized by watching TV was the Caucasian white gangsters, Al Capone, Elliot Ness, all of these people like that. So coming up, we as a group of young kids, we sort of wanted to be violent. We wanted to be like these guys. We seen the white cowboys with the guns, and so it was propagated on us just to be violent because this is what we seen. So we copied because of the lack of the knowledge of who we are. We just go along with who they say we are. That's why to me it's very important to learn and understand who we are, because it's a form of insanity just to even try to be or act in ways that are Eurocentric when we are not Eurocentric people. We are Africans, and we need to get back to our African mindset.
I'd like to interject something. Our ancestors and our elders could have wrote books with just a few words. And to explain what we're talking about here, they say if you lay down with a dog that got fleas, when you get up, you're going to walk away with some of them fleas.
That's right.
And our reality is, we as kidnapped Africans been laying down with this dog, the European, the Western mind, the Western culture, for 400 years. And what we experiencing in 2019 is the epitome of that spirit that has been breathed in us through the Willie Lynch process and living amongst this demonic energy for all this time. You see? Sir. And that's why what I've done over the years, I've been to Africa twice. I study African culture. So we had to start studying what was our social, cultural paradigm of existence prior to being kidnapped and forced to be in this landmass for this longer period of time, number one. And also, if we start to looking and studying our cultural ways prior to this, we see we had a highly sophisticated civilization that honored each other station no matter where you was at. The children had a place within the cultural society. The elders had a place within the cultural society. Those who was in the family life was honored. I'll give you an example. This is true. In the African culture, I had to be able to be upright at all times because our African ways is I represent not only myself, I represented my family line all the way back to 10, 15 generations.
Right.
So when I was moving around on the continent of Africa, I did not want to do anything to bring shame to my family lineage because that's how important it was. Now we come over here to this continent kidnapped, and we was indoctrinated with this type of mindset. And it says in here that this stuff that was indoctrinated in us would last for 300, maybe thousands of years.
That's right.
If there wasn't something to undo it.
Break it.
Do you understand what I'm saying? They use another verbiage, but what we're doing here is starting the process to, number one, to undo what was done. You see what I'm saying? Because
but it has to start at home though, because if we can talk and say all what we're saying, But we have to go into the homes of our people, because a lot of our people is not really raising their children right. You know, they get into an argument with their children, they call them niggers, and they call them whatever besides calling them the right name. So, you know, I was just reading the paper today where it was murder out in Southwest Philly, and that they had police officers there, the community was there, and the police department said, listen, it's not just on us. He said, it's on the parents, man. It's on the people. It's on the parents who with their children. You got to take some part of this, you know? So, you know, if we don't go into the homes of our people, the families, man, you know, we just going around in a circle.
But
You know,
like
once again,
what
I
we're
wanna-
doing here, this is why what we're doing is so important with the roundtable.
Right.
We can get into people's homes this way.
Right.
Right.
That cameraman.
Right here, we are
That's
able
it.
to enter people's homes.
Yes.
This is why what we're doing when we have the roundtable, the black male community roundtable. This is a way that we're going to enter into people's homes. You see what I'm saying? And you're correct. And then when you look at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for instance, under even the Nation of Islam, when you look and see what was being done to socialize us, you had the MGT classes, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the MGT classes was able to give the female an idea of how to operate, how they should everything that's not being done to uplift the female was being given to under MGT, the free classes.
Yes, sir.
You see? Now, if we can bring this type of structure back to start to addressing that part, we can start to healing the family. But right now, our families is very sick. You know, the Monahan report that we all
Yes,
had.
sir. Yes, sir.
And you can see that right now the African American community family structure is at its lowest ebb. So we have to start developing processes that we can start to recreating healthy families.
You know, I want to say
Oh,
something
sorry.
real quick as far in terms of, you know, I want to say, I'm going to shout, it's Black History Month, and one of the things about, and I chuckle when I say that too.
Yeah, me too.
I say that in angst, trust me. But you never hear a whole lot about the great Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, you said something about schools and whatnot. Elijah Muhammad was the first person I've seen in this country that was setting apart its own educational system
Private school.
right at the heart of the growth and development of us as a people.
That's right.
Now, if we sit and send our kids and we think our enemy is going to educate us about us,
Right.
he don't know our history, Black history, is the world's history, because we were the first attendants on the planet. Fact. So it's important that we do things like this, and I believe our communities have to have their own like set aside days or set aside times or set aside places where we can teach and we can make people aware of our own history and not his story. And what was you gonna say, brother?
Yeah, I remember around 2008 when President, at that time, former President, brother, Mr. Obama, he was running for president. He won 2008, but before that time, you know, everybody was, you know, pushing, trying to, you know, to get him to be the president. And of course, you know, Hillary Clinton was running too for president. And I remember I was down at the clothespin down Center City, and it was this black man, and I didn't really realize he was from Africa until he started talking. And he was giving out literatures of Hillary. And you know, I said, "What you doing? You don't want to vote for your own brother?" I said, "You don't want to vote for Obama?" He said, "No, I don't want to vote for Obama. I want to vote for Hillary." I said, "Wow, brother." And then we exchanged one word to another. I don't remember all what was said verbatim as far as word by word, but basically what he said to me, he said, "You know, you below me."
Whoa.
And I never heard that before from another black man or black person. You know what I'm saying? He said, "You below me," and that always stuck, you know, in my mind for a person to say something like that.
Right.
Then I remember, I believe the minister said this one time. He said that, when you go to Africa, they don't look at you as they look at themselves. They look at you differently. So my thing is, they know now that, what's so messed up about this whole thing? Not only that we're messed up here in America, but he was messed up as well.
They're worse over there.
He was just in a worse condition than I was.
Let's say
what I'm saying?
Some.
Let's say some.
Some.
Yeah, because when we use they,
right, we can't say
right.
I can't put a whole brush on that. You're right. But the thing is, they look at us differently. But at the same time, he was pushing a white woman, who in fact, that she was not really in favor of. What did Hillary Clinton say about our young generation? What was that statement she said, brother?
She called him a predator.
Super predator.
Super
Was super predator. But that's interesting what you said. But we have to understand that this phenomenon of white supremacy is a worldwide phenomenon. I'm going to give you an example.
Right.
In Asia, in Korea, and China, some of those, you have them using the white bleaching cream.
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, they had a toothpaste that they was using over there, some kind with a black face on it. It was Blackie toothpaste, and it was manufactured here, but they wasn't selling it here. And they went to try to stop them from selling it. They said no, because we're not selling it here. We sell it over there.
Yes.
So this phenomenon, especially with the infiltration of our mother country, Africa, the effects of that, it's long-reaching. So it doesn't surprise me that you can have an African saying to another, just because we have a different experience, because we, like Brother Stanley alludes to, that we are kidnapped Africans, and we've been living here under the subjugation of this white man. We're not beneath, but this is the indoctrination that they've been taught from being propagated by the media. When they see us in the videos with the 50-pound gold change and the naked women dancing, see this is programming. See, so they think that's how we really are.
Right.
These projections from these movies. So I can understand. I don't accept it, but I can understand where people could say, yeah, well, you're beneath us, because everybody gets indoctrinated about us when they come here.
That's why what we're doing is so very important, because we have to start telling our story,
our own story,
to who we are. Because what we've been doing is, I was just thinking about something, and I remember I'm 66 years old. I'll be 67, God's willing, in a couple of months.
Yes, sir.
So I came up through that area of 50s to 60s. I remember we're in the process. I remember gang warring, right? I remember drinking wine and wanting to be a thug. It was a thug, right? But see, and I seen this energy come. And I know we can bring the energy back. And what happened when you brought the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Huey Newton, Eldridge Cleaver,
That's right.
H. Rap Brown, when you had Dick Gregory, Black Side, Dark Side, you had what's his name that did Black Rhapsody, the Calvin,
Ed Robinson.
Ed Robinson. You had
Dr. Ed Robinson.
Dr. Ed Robinson. You had Nina Simone. You had James Brown. I'm Black and I'm Proud.
Right. You had a movement. You had a spirit.
We went from being Negroes and niggas to being black and proud. We went from not wanting to do anything with Africa to wearing dashikis.
But we got to give the credit to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because if it was not for him, we would not be saying we're black today, because he the one promoted and said that we was black.
And we was God.
Proud.
And we was God.
Right, and we guys.
And he was talking about the divine aspect. That's where I was going at with this conversation. He was talking about the divine aspect of us. If the Bible said we are made in the likeness of God, and the Quran say God blew his wrath in us, that means that divine aspect is in us.
Right.
So, but what was happening when that spirit, that energy came, it came through the messengers that was coming amongst us.
Messengers.
But listen to this. I recognize they was bringing a message that touched our spirit. It'd activate that divine aspect in our spirit. So we no longer wanted to be this devious individuals. We wanted to be who the Creator originally made us. But because it came through the sources that it came through, we was receptive to it, and that energy took hold. And when it took hold, we all made a transformation at the same time.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And what I see is missing today, we're not talking to the spirit of our people. You see?
Yes.
Right.
If
we spirituality people.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no doubt.
If we start bringing information that touches the spirit of our people, then our people, that part that we say we ain't, we will be again. You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So what we're talking here is those who listen will start to get another perspective that the society today is not giving us.
Exactly.
Leroy.
Based on what Brother Stanley is saying, this is very salient point. When the rise of black awareness, black consciousness was taking place, I'm 62 years old. My first album that I ever bought, I was talking to a brother earlier today about this. My first album I bought was at 52nd and Girard at a black-owned
I remember that
shop
store.
called King James.
King James.
Now, check out what I bought.
Yes,
My
sir.
first album was The Last Poets on the Corner. I was 15 years old. And technically, in those days, albums were being censored because of the language. I went into King James. He kind of smiled at me when he saw me walk up to the counter with this
Right.
Last Poets, because I heard the older brothers in the neighborhood listening. And back in the day, you see a brother walking down the street with albums.
With albums on his arm. Yes,
So
sir.
I was like, what's that you listening to? And I'm listening to those songs, and I said, man, I gotta go get that. It's like $5 back then.
Yeah. That's a lot of
Okay.
money.
Yeah, I go in there, I scrap up my little allowance money, and I go in there and buy it. Now, King James, he knew me because I was a musician in the neighborhood, and King James used to have a studio behind his place there. And so I would come through, and he would see me, but this day I'm coming to buy the Last Poets album. Now, I say all this to say that here I was at 15 years old. 15! That little area of space today where they're popping these guns and doing everything that we're talking about and trying to be effective with. At that time, I was buying the Last Poets album. So he told me he couldn't sell it to me. So I knew what to do. I went outside and gave it to the first. Go ahead. Can you go in there and get this for me? Yes, sir, I got you. He went and got it. But I say all that to say is that at that time, there was a level of consciousness that was beginning to rise in our community.
In our community.
And
Yes.
then what happened?
What year was that, brother?
70 maybe? 71?
Yeah.
Okay.
71, I want to say. 71, because I was still in junior high school, on my way into high school. So, right after that time period is when a mass raid of drugs started to come into the neighborhood
community, right?
to thwart that. Now, not only that, but the advent of processed foods, weaponized drugs were going on in those time periods. All you have to do is see, whenever there were rises in the black movement along that time period, here comes a form of drug that swept a lot of that progress out.
Correct.
When you and I, when I first came in the nation in 1979, 1980, that was the beginning of freebasing. It started out with freebasing. The bigger boys was cooking up cocaine. So it cost you money to do that.
Right.
And get this little lump that they got, and they smoked that. But then somebody said, hey man, we can give you that same high for $3.
Wow.
And they flipped that, but at the same time, that was the time when Minister Farrakhan was standing up. So they flushed the drugs through the neighborhood. So brothers that you saw that may possibly been able to convert, they were shrinking in front of you.
Correct.
Smoking. You have the advent of that processed food. Now, when I was coming up, I remember seeing my grandmother. She didn't get no Gerbers. She got her some string beans, put it in her own mouth, and gave it to my little sister. I seen mothers feed children out of their mouths. But the children that came thereafter, after that crack epidemic started to come in, that processed foods was there. Similac and all that
Right,
stuff came out real heavy.
Right.
So the little baby who needed to feel his mother's, the connection with that breast and feeding from the mother and looking up at that face.
That's right.
And feeling that warmth and feeling that pulse. He now in the crib sucking on a bottle with the television on.
That's right. That's right.
Sounds. Now mom, she done went out on a crack epidemic. Baby, he cold. He's cold. Nobody showed him no love. He didn't have no mom to feed him like you and I were fed. I'm a breastfed baby. I'm proud to say that. I was a breastfed baby. And my brother and sister, I'm the oldest of the three of us, we were all breastfed. And I know, and the devil is now saying that there is a difference between a child that's breastfed and fed some synthetic stuff. It's all part of an organic process that develops the mind. Now, if you got a baby that's been sitting in there drinking that Similac, that processed stuff, you don't know what the hell is in there. They done gave him an immunization with some mercury and all this other stuff.
Mercury and aluminum and everything else in there.
Now, 5 years later, he done grew up a little bit. Now he eating Sugar Smacks. What's that multicolored cereal?
Fruity Loops.
Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops.
Yeah, all that stuff, man. The marshmallows in it.
Yeah, but all they had chemicals in there.
Yeah,
now. They got the
chemicals
same
in
kind of chemical in there that does cleans your house whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Is especially when Brother Leroy was hitting on something. We go back to the Clintons. The welfare to work program was one of the worst things that could have happened to the babies.
Yes, sir.
You
Exactly.
know what I'm
The
saying?
That's right.
To the babies.
Man, mom out the house.
See, because they gave the perception that these were some lazy, shiftless women who was laying down having babies so they could get money. So now let's get these lazy, shiftless nigger women out to go to slave labor.
Yes, sir.
Because just think about it.
That's what it
Think
was.
about it. Right now today, if you do a data and data and statistic research, most of the women that they put in them programs is working for non-livable wages, and they putting their babies in daycare because the government now compels them to be away from the baby. That baby who we talking about with the violence and stuff,
These black men
have not had emotional stability since they left the womb.
Have not. That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And nothing can replace that connection that God made, not you and I made. We ain't got nothing to do with it. The creator and sustainer of the world made that connection supposed to be when that baby come out the womb, it ain't supposed to be discarded in 6 months, 6 weeks, and given to strangers that the baby have no attachment to.
And no care, no
and
love.
then charge the baby for being emotionless and what we see today.
High school.
You see what I'm saying? We talk about the young people like they are throwaway people, but we're not really doing the analyzation
Critical
to see what's creating the demonicness that we see them manifesting.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? I was raised with a mother and a father by the grace and mercy of God.
Yes, sir.
And I know when I look at my 9 brothers and sisters, we are more stable than some people who are not. Like my son who got killed. You know, I had him since he was 3. And I raised him up until it was just me and him. But here's something that I learned from that. No matter what I gave him, I could not replace his mother. You see what I'm saying? I had that experience.
Yes, sir.
So this is part of what we're talking about, man. It's not just that we as a people are just in a dilemma. It was certain things that's creating our dilemma.
That's right.
And until we take an assessment of what's creating our collective dilemma, we'll keep charging ourselves for being in this dilemma.
Okay, right. I want to just interject on something. It was interesting how you went with the advent of a climate where we were more conscious, and every time that happens, and you can take this back to the 60s, you can take this back to the government, you can take this back to J. Edward Hoover, when they had a on-purpose plan to stop the coming of a quote-unquote black messiah or black leader.
Yes.
Now, I want to tie that back into our initial conversation about the aggressiveness or the haughtiness of the black man. And you mentioned something, the processed foods, the diet, a studied diet and we need to bring that in because we have to look at all in a holistic view of this situation where it's the mind, body, and spirit. And we talking about the foods. It's a known fact, especially in our meats, in our chicken and the beef, extra sex hormones are entered into these animals so they can have more sex, produce more, and therefore to build the capitalist society up.
Right.
Also, especially mainly in the beef, when these animals are killed, the adrenaline level shoots up.
Right.
They are very fearful. They know they're getting ready to die. So that flight or fright that adrenaline comes up. So what we do with this stuff, that we kill it, cart it, freeze it, then we put it back on our plates. We ingest. We consume all these extra sexual hormones. We consume this adrenaline. So it's even a known fact. Now, I'm not trying to tell people, the biggest fight you want to get into is when you try to tell people what to eat. I'm just trying to give some information.
See, that's why.
Even in, let me finish, even now.
How to eat to live.
Yeah, they went there. They just reminded me one of the greatest books ever written was by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he was telling us then how to eat to live. We are overeating people. That don't mean we getting the nourishment. All of this 3 meals a day. We are the only country that thrives on that 3 meals a day. Everybody eat no 3 meals. So we're getting over processed, over chemicalized, and as a result of it, it makes us behave a certain way. Now we're all guilty of that because we're so bombarded with these things. So as far as information, they not only took our culture, our religion, all of that from us, they took our diet from us.
Yes,
because that has something to do with this production of this animosity and all this stuff we have toward each other, because just like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you are what you eat, and you think what you eat too. It affects our emotions.
That's why it's so important that we have our own community, our own
Yes,
businesses, and that we have our own meat stores where in fact you kill an animal a way that is prescribed.
Yes.
You're supposed to kill an animal when it's not expecting that it's going to die.
Right, exactly.
So that's the allowed meat that you eat. Those, when you eat those meat, those are the animals that was killed in a way that they did not or was not aware that they was going to die. All right. So we need stores and restaurants that will be able to serve our people. Another thing too that I wanted to say is the black community. We have to really come into the greater knowledge of who we are.
Yes, sir.
One of the things I wanted to ask, or at least do, I wanted to help the public right now by asking some of you some questions as far as if there was a male or man or woman about to marry, and then we go forward with it, that they married, they've been married for 4 years, 5 years, they have a child now, or they have children, they have a boy, they have a girl. What would be the best way to reverse what we was talking about in the very beginning as far as making men? Like for instance, you have a boy, they have a child, he's a boy. What is the role that the mother have to do? What is the role the father have to do to start feeding that child words of influence, words of encouragement, words to help this child, this boy, to come to a man? For instance, when the father goes to work, the father said, listen boy, I want you to take care of your mother. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to work. You in charge. You're going to be the man of the house. I want you to take care of your mother. I want you to take care of your little sister. Whatever your mother say, listen to your mom because she's your mother. but the mother, it's like the mother and the father, or the husband and the wife have to come together, and they have to have like a plan that, listen, we have children. What we have to do is we have to raise these children up properly so they can be
Wholesome.
Right. They can be respected in the community, productive in the community. You know, so the father's out of work, the mother goes out to the supermarket or go out to the store. She teaches her son to open the door for her. When she walks out the street, she teaches him, said, listen, when I walk out the street, you know, on a pavement, going down the walkway, I don't want you to be on the outside where traffic is on. I don't want you to be in the inside where traffic are. You always got to be on the outside so you protect your mother or your sister, whoever, anytime that there's a female. So these little things you got to really install in them. You know what I'm saying? So when they grow up, they say, well, you know, they understand that by me walking out in the outer part of the pavement, I'm protecting my mother, I'm protecting my sister. Even when I open the door, I have to open the door for my mother, or I have to open the door for my aunt, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So these little things that the mothers have to learn to teach and instill within the child. You understand what I'm saying? So it starts with them. It starts with them young.
I'm gonna help.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna help. It's undisputable, right? The best example we have of that interaction, and people might not realize it, was the teachings from the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Mm-hmm. I watched this today. I was a young brother when the temple was at Broad and Susquehanna Avenue before it moved over there on Watt Street.
Okay.
There was a temple at Broad and Susquehanna Avenue, right where the subway station,
right,
the A&P market was.
That was headquarters.
Yeah, it was right there, right? Mm-hmm. And what I keep coming back to when I speak about the Nation of Islam is they had a structure that was doing exactly what you were saying.
Right, that's right.
You see what I'm saying? And it needed bad, because if the male don't know his role within the family and the female don't know her role within the family, they become at odds with each other, because the male can't be the female and the female can't be the male.
Right.
So we need to be able to re-educate our young people and our older people on how to have a harmonious family life. Now, I'm not saying that everything was always hunky-dory, because even with that structure you had difficulty, but it had a mechanism within there. When things went awry, you could come to somebody and get some counseling.
Right.
If the male was being brutal to the female, the brothers would step to the male and say, "Man, listen, you got to be able to, to curtail that, right?"
Right.
But right now we're in a situation where like the Willie Lynch letters say, everything is backwards.
Yes.
Everything is backwards. You see what I'm saying? It's even so backwards that they are propagating that what the Creator made, the male and the female, is not necessary to raise a child.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now
they got two men raising a child.
Two women
raising a child.
Or just one woman.
Which brings an unbalance.
Yeah. And the brothers got to be able to start to understand. This is what I understand, especially for the brothers. There's a spiritual blessing being responsible to your responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Having babies by 5, like my son, he had 5 babies by 4 different women. I didn't teach him that. Society might have propagated that into his spirit, but we have to start to realizing that them children, that it comes through us, is a responsibility that the Creator is giving us, and if we live up to that responsibility, we get safeguards. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Because if you have a dedication to your children, certain things you can't do, and certain things you got to do. But if you don't have that dedication to those children who you think you love, then you leave yourself open to participate in activities that get you away from them or get you off the planet. You see what I'm saying?
Right. That's correct. I'm thinking about something in my mind based on what you said, Stanley. There's an African proverb that Miss Hillary Clinton stole. It says it takes a village to raise a child. And when you look at the nation of Islam as that village that brought a collective together, and a group was telling the men how to be men. A group was telling the women how to be women. That's the village. That's the African concept that we had, because when we linked up in marriage before we got here, we would have all the ancestors, all the people on that side of the family. It wasn't just that man. It was that man, his brother, his uncles, and the same way with that woman. They would come together. And also they would take care of, they would help that marriage to succeed by giving it finances. They might give it some land or some animals to help it out. And when that family got in trouble, just like in the nation with the brothers, the unity, the family, or they didn't allow them two individuals just go on. Somebody would pull the brothers to the side and say, hey, wait a minute, you might not want to handle it like that. This is how you handle that. The same thing with the women. See, we got to get back to the unity part. This little do for just me, blah, blah, that's a European concept. Mm-hmm. We always were a unified, and we moved in groups. Because just like this says, it takes a village to raise a child. We got to get away from that. Don't say nothing, because just like I see these children and they shooting each other, they're our babies. They're our children. Mm-hmm. So we have to take some kind of responsibility to try to influx or just turn this paradigm. Because I believe that is what the Creator wants us to do. And if He got our back, He'll give us that spiritual connection and that power that we need to do this. Because my thing is with this. I believe the Creator always have a way of turning things back the way it was. Let me give you an example. White people, Caucasians, are actually dying out. They're dying more than they're having babies. So it's a phenomenon. We may not see it, but it's a phenomenon that's going on, and there is hope for the black man here. There is hope for the kidnapped African here in the United States.
We got to do something, because if we wait for them to die out for us to get out,
I'm not saying wait.
Which gonna go first? We or them? You know what I mean? It's a phenomenon that has to occur.
Yes,
it's the phenomenon, and just like when we look at Brother Malcolm. Brother Malcolm was trying to get the OAU, Organization of African American Unity. One thing he said that was very important about the structure was to leave our theology, ideology, all our differences at the door. So when we come in this arena, we in there for the unification, black nationalism.
Common cause.
Right. I am one of them people that believe that, like I think we was talking somewhere, and we was talking about the Messiah. And through the conversation, instead of the Messiah being a person, let's make the Messiah an ideology, right? Because people passes on, but if we look at black nationalism, if we look at Pan-Africanism, and we look at Afrocentricity, if we can agree that that's going to be our Messiah, for lack of a better term, that means every kidnapped African use that as their reasoning for taking an action. You see, and you could be a Republican, but I'm not going to put Republicans over my black nationalism, my Afrocentricity, and my Pan-Africanism. If it don't help that effort, then I don't want to be a part of it. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we have to build something. Just like we're talking about the good works of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the good works of the Nation of Islam. That don't mean that there's not good works in Christianity. That don't mean that there's not good works with our Afrocentric brothers and sisters. Let's find the good works in all of them and incorporate it so we could create the paradigm that we need to save ourselves. You see what I'm saying?
Create the paradigm.
Yeah, we have to create the paradigm. We was at a lecture at Dr. Malefi Ashante's Afrocentricity Institution. And it was I wish we could really find that and bring that up as a discussion point. And Dr. Amma Mazan, she did a lecture on Western decadence. Okay. And if we was able to look at that, we'd start to seeing the Western decadence and what part, when we are participating in it, and let's look at African culture like Ma'at, right? The concept of Ma'at. Let's look at how our African ancestors lived, and let's put the two together.
Right.
Yes.
And then we could start to doing the comparison and see when we are moving within the paradigm of our existence and when we are moving in the Western decadence. And then we could start to really producing something. And here's another thing too that I believe. We, the kidnapped Africans here on the continent of North America, we are and I don't want to say this to disconnect us, but we are the newest ethnic group on the planet.
Yes, sir. Unique.
You see what I'm saying? So when we start to looking at us, and we are the only people on the planet at this present time that don't have a landmass that we can go to. We could go to Africa, you see what I'm saying? But a Nigerian go to Africa, he's going back home.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? He know where he going. A Ghanaian know where he going.
Not us.
A South African know where he going. The kidnap situation had given us a homeless people, right? Because there's not an actual landmass that we could go because we was kidnapped and brought here. And now we have to create a landmass like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again. Mm-hmm. How do we create some of this North American landmass that we could call our own? It's doable.
Yep.
But we have to get together. First, we have to come together under a paradigm that really, what I'm talking about is black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and Afrocentricity.
It's the only way.
Then we can start creating a paradigm that we can agree that we can live together on this landmass. And let's go get some of this land for ourselves. Because we have to remember, God is the giver of this land. It's like the Indians. The Indians did not have a concept of ownership of land. So when the Europeans was coming over here making these BS treaties with these people, they didn't know you was talking about giving them thousands of acres of their land. So when it was time to hunt, they wasn't hunting, and the white man said, you can't come on hunt. What you mean I can't come on hunt? I've been hunting there for thousands of years. I don't understand what he said, well, I own this land. Right. He said, because you took my rum, you signed here, you can't come on here.
Yes.
And the Indians say, wow, this is deep here.
Right.
So they had the wars, because the white man was using trickery and to take ownership of land. But we got to remember, the land was given to us by God.
Right.
And if we start to find ways and means to get our piece of this land that we find ourselves on, which is doable, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again, he was saying, give us what, 5, 6, 8 states. Let us give us 20 years and you help us get this thing together. Since they ain't gonna do it, let's figure out a way how we can do it within this structure and it can be done.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
You know, it's powerful that you're saying what you're saying. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you had said a little earlier, I want to make sure I get the right words. You said instead of looking at this Messiah as a person or an individual, right?
Yeah.
What was the words that you said? You said instead of looking at him as an individual, was it?
Let's look at it
as a consciousness or a paradigm or a way of thinking.
Instead of looking at the Messiah as a person, let's look at it as a paradigm of existence, right? And using Afrocentricity, Pan-Africanness, and black nationalists as that Messiah. As that Messiah.
All right.
You see what I'm saying?
I think I got where you at.
Because this way, if we put it in a person, and we have history and data and statistics, when you put it in a person, when that person leaves, it's like cutting off the head.
Right.
But if you put it in a systematic way of existence, you see what I'm saying? Like say the Jews use Zionism.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care what type of Jew you are. Zionist is their platform. You see what I'm saying?
It's the base.
It's the base. Not Menachem Begin, not Sharon. It's the base is Judaism. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but when we talk like this, they act like we talking something. Multiculturalism. What the hell is that? You see what I'm saying? So we get trapped in multiculturalism. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I'm a Christian. I'm a Muslim. But we never put our existence under a paradigm that we all can buy into.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You see what I'm
See,
saying?
the whole multiculturalism phenomenon or school of thought just simply waters down or it distracts from our primary purpose, which is Afrocentricity, our culture. See, and I like that idea, and we don't have to really reinvent the wheel. See, because we could just follow up and go back and get our research, just like Sankofa, go back and get into our Pan-Africanism, or just totally abandon this Eurocentric way of thinking. But in order to do that, in order to make that work, it takes a commitment. It takes a lifelong commitment of studying and researching on a continual basis, because we need that to combat the onslaught of this paradigm, or like you call it, this Western decadence that's being perpetrated on us. Even as we sit here 24 hours a day, there's messages that go out that go against the grain of who we are, and it distracts us. And from the time of Willie Lynch, these white folks are good at it. I give them their credit. They're good at it.
Quote the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again. He said they are great scientific deceivers.
Scientific deceivers.
Now, just think about it. It's one thing to be a deceiver.
Yes.
It's one thing to be great at it. It's another level to do it in a scientific manner.
way.
Right.
Yes.
Leroy, you was about to say something.
Masters of art deceivers.
I like what you said about this Messiah. When I was introduced to the Nation of Islam, 1977, 78, 79, started to search. I didn't come necessarily for religion. I came for what I had missed from 1971. Excuse me. Was that spirit of black unity.
Yes, yes, sir.
Right.
The Black Panther didn't quite catch me. I needed something a little bit more. In that search, I recognized that Elijah Muhammad was giving a complete spectrum that would handle every aspect of what you were saying, Pan-Africanism,
Yes.
world unities with
Yes.
other than our own. He was the first, no, not first, second. Besides Marcus Garvey, who
Marcus
started
Garvey,
to talk
right,
about
yeah.
international
Yes,
trade
sir.
and the black
have to
man
mention
throughout the diaspora.
Okay.
All right. So he came in after that time period and brought something at a critical time, probably one of the most critical times in our existence here. Now, Malcolm was often quoted to be saying from his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that history was best qualified to reward all of our research.
Right.
I've grown to understand now, yeah, there's history. You can study history beyond into infinity if you care to. But the history that I focus on now is that existence when we, as individuals, first of all, begin to wake up. Take the time in which you start to recognize that there was something going on. You personally, our listening audience, when you personally started to wake up and look around, take a 360 view and say, okay, well, this is where I was. Because I can't do nothing about grandmom and great-great-grandpa. But where am I today? There was no moon gang in that time period. There was no upper north gang, whatever they calling themselves now. But Elijah Muhammad was establishing something that would have captured the whole of the black experience. His book, nothing religious here, message to the black man in America. He wasn't talking to that African brother that was down there and told you less than him yet. He wanted to talk to us. The descendants of the slaves. He went from that. And he told us about where we was. He said, you're in a fallen place, brothers and sisters. We have to get out of here, or we have to establish ourselves here. He saed, no need in us going anywhere else when our blood, of our forefathers was right here.
That's why I built America with my sweat and blood.
Then he started talking about land acquisition and food. How to eat to live. You can't eat to live without land of your own. So this is land acquisition. You read any of these two, it's talking about land acquisition.
Correct.
And I like it's a brother that's around us that I work with quite often, Brother Chris in Mosque number 12. He in his talk as he opens up in our tour that we're doing called Stop the Killing Tour. He always says our message here today is not to convert you, it's to alert you. So far as you see, there's no talk about God in any of these books. I mean, on any of these covers. It doesn't say God, it isn't pressing the religion. Message to the black man, The Fall of America, How to Eat to Live, book 1 and book 2. And then after all that, you say, well, where's God in the equation? Well, here he is. Now, we ask, where is our Savior? We shouldn't be looking for him. We are the ones we've been looking for. It's us.
We're it. Okay.
This is it. So when I hear about a Savior, I'm looking at the BMCC. I'm looking at the Nation of Islam.
That's right.
I'm looking at all active groups and organizations in the diaspora that are trying to do something
To save us.
to save our people. I listened to, and I'm going to cut it with this, the Book of Marvin. You probably heard this passage. The Book of Marvin, I don't know if you ever read it, but it goes like this. When I look at the world, it fills me with sorrow. Children
Read that
today
book.
really suffer tomorrow.
That's Marvin Gaye.
But who really cares? Who is willing to try to save a world
That is destined to die. Let me know
That's us, man.
Can I piggyback on that?
Go ahead, bro. Don't piggyback. Don't tell. I don't want no piggyback.
Let me get off that.
Go ahead, bro. Yeah, get off that
I'm
pig.
gonna take that out of my
Get off that
vocabulary. I don't
pig.
want
Yes,
to
sir.
piggy on nothing.
Yeah, don't piggyback.
Hold on.
Well, I gotta say this.
No, let me just do this.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah.
I kind of like lost my point because you took me somewhere. You know, we have to take this savior thing. Waiting on a savior or some type of outside entity, it's almost like, once again, a Eurocentric paradigm.
Right.
We ain't nobody coming to help us.
No, sir.
We have, the Creator we are the Creator. He made us in His image. Everything we need to help ourselves, we got it in ourselves. All we got to do is acknowledge it and know it. We don't have to wait on, I know, my mom used to always say this. She used to say, wait broke the wagon. We don't have to wait. We have the energy, we have the knowledge, we have the strength. It's almost like, and no bashing, I'm not trying to Christian bash or anything like that, but we ain't waiting, we waiting for some pie in the sky. We have to help ourselves now and here. We want our pie now. We ain't waiting though, that time for waiting, and we have everything we in it, like we're gods. We're gods.
Yes, sir.
The black man is God. We are him. We are his first creation. We are connected spiritually, and we have all we need. All we need. We just have to connect back spiritually in a unified effort.
Yes,
So it's something that happens spiritually when we unify that this white man knows. So he constantly attacks us to get us to disunify. And that reminds me of a scripture about a group of individuals, black individuals, and I want to use this to reference unity. They attempted to build a tower all the way up to the Creator, all the way up to God.
Tower.
God says, nah. But it never said in this scripture that these men were evil. But it did say they were building this tower. God dispersed them, changed their language. But the point I'm trying to make is, when we get together in unity, we can do some things. We can do some godly things. Because these guys were almost there. And he dispersed them. But it never said that they were evil for getting together. So, but this unity thing, that's what it's about. We have to break down some of this, the psychological damage, the psychological slavery that we in, and unify again. We did it once before we got here. We can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Brother Najee.
In every major city, you have Chinatown. You know, in every major city. I was in Chicago just recently, and I was in the area where it was like Chinatown. I said, wow, every major city there's a Chinatown. We can actually do the same thing.
Sure.
You know, we've been talking about it, but someone have to really take the initiative to make it really happen, to plan it out, to find an area and say, listen, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know
I'm
what I'm
writing
saying?
that paper right down.
Yeah, we're gonna do it right here. This is gonna be the black town.
You know, there is an initiative. I hate to get into politics in Philadelphia. There is an initiative to institute an African town over in Southwest Philly over in Woodland Avenue. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm writing a paper right now that I'm doing research on.
Okay.
I'm doing research, and I pray that maybe within the next month I complete it, and then I give it to everybody of how we can use racism and their political structure to acquire land from these people that we haven't thought about, right?
Okay.
It was during the election, and this recent election. And when I heard that there was only 1 million people in the whole state of Montana, not that we want to move to Montana,
right?
but it's 43. It's supposed to be 47 million of us, right? But just think about it.
Yeah, about 40.
Yeah, 47 million of us. So just think about that. I'm just using this as a thought process.
Yes.
If it's only 1 million people in the whole state of Montana.
That's,
We only need to send 3 million of us there, and we control the whole state.
Montana.
Now, here's another piece.
Interesting.
The federal government gives each state so much money every year, billions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Also, each state has ownership of state land.
Right.
The federal government owns some land in these states, but the state have ownership of land.
Yes, sir.
You see what I'm saying? So, if we use strategy and statistics and data, and we use our thought processes. Now, I don't want to move to Montana, but some people don't mind the cold. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's cold down
So
there.
if you find 3 million of us that don't mind the cold weather and like and could be pioneers, just think about it. We could take over the whole state.
Right,
Delaware,
yes, sir.
Delaware. Believe it or not, Delaware only have 960,000 people in the whole state of Delaware.
Oh, less than $1 million.
Yeah. We could send 3 million to the state of Delaware. Now, I'll go to Delaware. 3 million of us go and we take over the state of Delaware.
Right down the road.
Now, think about this. In the Senate, each state had the same equivalent of senators, 2. We take over 20 states population-wise. We had 20 senators. 20 senators could make decisions at the governmental level that they would have to come to us to pass anything. Now, this is what I'm saying. We sitting over here on a landmass playing their political game to our disadvantage. How do we come together and strategize and start playing their political game to our advantage?
For our advantage.
Here's another thing.
That's putting people in office that is going to be in our favor.
That's right. If it's 3 million of us and there's 1 million people in that whole state, we outnumber them. And then I did some research on the 40 acres in the mirror. And this is going to be in my paper. They use politics to disenfranchise us from the land.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right?
but they did that, brother Stan, even in the time of Jim Crow era, where they took over the politician, as far as the Senate, the Congress, whatever, and they made rules and regulations and kept us out.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? They kept us out. So what you're saying is that we'll get in it, and then we make rules and regulations that will be in favor for us.
And then we use that racism against them. Just think about this. Think about this. I always say this. Sometimes I say this, but you can imagine this. Say even here in Philadelphia, we want to take over a place in the Northeast here.
Right.
that they don't really want us to take over.
Right.
Let's go find 10 Bebe families, real Bebes, not no fake Bebes. Let's find real Bebe families, and let's go find and infuse them in their area, and we're gonna pay for their rent until we take over the landmass. Their racism is gonna make them move. We create a mortgage company where they moving out. They've
been doing it for years.
We talking about gentrification. Instead of worrying about their gentrification, let's create a gentrification that we are controlling of. But if we keep looking at them and trying to fit into their paradigm,
which is not going to happen.
It ain't going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
We have the examples of that
makes
already.
sense.
Ready up there, up there in Reading, you have the Amish people.
Oh,
the Amish people got their own community.
They do.
They got their own governance.
Land. They got their own land.
Yes. Also, look at a place like Utah.
Right.
Salt Lake City.
Right.
Now they have all the Mormons.
Right.
Now they infiltrate Utah, but they have their own governors. They do their little funny things. They're allowed to get away with it because they're controlling it because they're in it. Now it's a certain logic in what Stan is saying. If we could just go and say, take a state, we could control the politics,
the
local,
and
right off the bat.
state.
And I think that's the way we should be looking at this political structure, because the way we rolling in it now, it's not working for the black people. We need to come up, like Malcolm said, we need to think differently on how we dealing with the wolf and the fox. They both carnivorous, they both eating us up. But we need to come up and think a little bit more strategical. And once again, it's going to take a collective. It's going to take that unity.
See, but the fox and the wolf is to have the same nature, but I think the fox is more one
of them is more subtle
in subtlety, but the other one
that's the Democrat.
Right. But they both have the same
and the
nature.
Republican let you know what he thinks. He let you know.
Right.
I'd like to inject that for me. This is Leroy speaking. You can call it Leroyism. But my esoteric understanding of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and my theological background tells me that he gives the kingdom to whom he pleases and takes it from whom he pleases. We may have a plan, and God has a plan, and he's the best of planners.
Okay.
My understanding of where I am today, that all of the moves that we may attempt to do through politics, they've already been attempted to this point. The call for land coming from the lips of Marcus Garvey started in the 30s, late 20s into the 30s. Is that right? And then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, after his teacher's departure in 1931, 32.
Marcus was around 1914, 1917.
Yeah, 1914. Come on now. So we've been talking about this for some time, man. Landmass and so forth and so on. But when we look at from a military perspective, I never served in the devil's military, but I think very militarily. We have land. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad purchased 4,700 acres of land in Alabama. Was it Alabama? I believe so. It'll come back to me in a moment because I've been working with Dr. Richard.
There's two areas.
Watching what he's doing
right
down there in Marion County, I believe it's called. The land was purchased under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and under Warif D. Muhammad, that land was sold back. The enemy recaptured the land. Then in the early 80s, mid 80s, early 90s, the minister went down there and rebought land that we already had. Now check out what happens. Now there was an attempt. Now the land is purchased, repurchased. There was an attempt to do exactly what's being discussed here. And that was Brother Dr. Richley Muhammad was calling out to anyone non-nation members, anyone that would like to come down to help to develop this land. I listened to a brother the other day, he said one thing about Negroes, they ain't trying to pick cotton and do no more farm work. So he's down there with a handful of people and he's crying out. Now the devil recognized that, hey, they didn't see the opportunity. See, we should have set up houses all around the farm. But the reality for it was that we're accustomed, like Brother Stan said, I ain't moving to Montana. And some of us city slickers, we ain't moving down there to, as they say, we ain't trying to be Bama, we ain't going down in the sticks. So that movement that's necessary to capture that and make it happen has not happened. Now let me tell you what the most recent news is. The roads, that lead to the land, the devil ill repaired them.
Right.
Or not repaired them at all.
Okay.
And there's a water source coming up underneath the roads, has been there all along. And when it rains, it swamps out the roads so that the tractor trailers that we had to use to try to bring our watermelons out from the farm got stuck in the mud.
Right.
Also, the Caucasians was caught on our land stealing our watermelons. Right? Caught. Now, that's something that has been established, but let's talk about the politics of it all. He's knocked on the doors of City Hall. He's gotten petitions. They came in there and did a shoddy job of putting some gravel on dirt roads. And then somewhere along the way, they came and removed the gravel. So they went through the political chain to try to make this thing happen. So once you exhaust the political chain, what is there left for you to do? Like Minister Farrakhan said one time regarding the attacks that was coming on the nation, he said, what are y'all calling us to do? What are y'all trying to force us to do?
Right.
Even a mouse, a rat, cornered in a corner, is going to come out fighting.
That's right. Come out fighting.
So my mind is never on at this point in our existence of doing anything through their politics.
Right.
We can develop a mindset and militarize that mindset. He said that business is warfare. They write books on that all the time.
I don't know
They
how
just
to
write it in
respond to
various ways. That book, Sun Tzu, Military Writings of Sun Tzu, is all about the art of war.
The art of war.
They use it in business structure to get an understanding of how to structurize yourselves. Like the document that you're working on right now that you showed me that we're going to work on tomorrow. What you're talking about is militarizing. Military only means format.
Right.
Right.
Form. With power behind it. God is force
And power.
and power. Everything else is non-existent for where we are right now. We're up in a corner. To go and try to negotiate with the non-negotiable, it's out of the question.
Okay.
We have to be in a position to take it. So I like what you said. Get some babies and put them in an area and finance them. And they'll run out like they've been running out.
Right.
But where will they run to now? They left the suburbs. They can't go back there because Mr. Bourgeois, he moved out into their old house. So where they gonna go? Where will they go?
Who they building for? They're going to
now check
city.
this out. The
City.
scripture says that in that day, every bird would return to its own nest. But it said that there would be hateful birds that were all around the earth that would return back here, and they were angered because of what they saw going on here. And as Malcolm said from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that the Negro problem is their greatest problem.
That's right, and that's what Jan Ruby said.
Yeah, that's what he
Yes.
said.
Same
He
thing.
said
Greatest
the greatest
problem.
threat. He says the
Exactly.
greatest threat would be the Negro
That's right.
people.
Right.
That would be my greatest threat.
Now the
'Cause
young boy,
he knows something great's gonna come out of us.
now the young boy, the young sisters, our conversation is an amalgamation of our time periods and where we grew up.
Right.
But if you had a 16, 15-year-old here sitting here right now, he'd be falling asleep.
Right.
Because he has no reference point for that unless he had a father that raised him up.
Right, that's right. So that starts, that's right.
So starting with Brother Stan's whole purpose for us being here tonight, what is it that we need to do to activate that particular area of our youth, to activate those minds, get them stimulated, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in the book of Malachi, and I love it, I've been quoting it over and over here this week particularly. He said, before that great and dreadful day, I will send you Elijah, and he will turn the hearts. Now let's talk about that. He's going to turn the hearts of the fathers unto the sons, and the sons' hearts unto the father, lest he comes to smite the earth with a curse. So I say, this is Leroyism, Leroy speaking. I say that turning of the heart is to take the heart of you and put it in the 15-year-old and take his energy and spirit and put it back in us so that we can thrive knowing that we're raising our people.
Can I interject? This is magnificent. I mean, Brother Leroy be coming up with some stuff. I really love this here, and I love what you're saying here. Because and we're gonna bring it to a close.
Right.
Because what you just gave is what we are about to get ready to do. One of the things that, the more I talk about what we're doing as the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia, is now we're going back where that can occur, where the young brothers can hear us and we can hear them, where their energy we could give them energy and they can give us energy.
That's right.
Because we're going to be in the same space at the same time.
Right, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And that's something that I believe that the Creator, like you're saying, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he's going to send you Elijah. We all are Elijahs. And we stop thinking about it as a person, but we're thinking about it as a collective. One thing, in Kemet, when our African ancestors was cultivating spirituality,
Right.
their cultivation of spirituality was so they could reach their divine aspect, right? They was trying to reach their divinity. And that divinity was the divine aspect of God. You see what I'm saying? So they wasn't trying to be the God. They were trying to cultivate that aspect of God that is in all of us. And the way Brother Leroy just put it, that God that's in our young people, we want to activate that God in them. That God that's in them will activate the God in us. And as we start acting godly, we'll start that's the Savior. We become the saviors.
Yes, sir.
You see what I'm saying?
Saviors, that's right.
Saviors, right.
Yeah, we become the saviors, and we learn how to eat to live, not only food, but we eat spiritually, we eat mentally,
right.
we eat all that aspects of eating.
That's right.
You say, so when you look at this and say how to eat to live, if we stop at the food, we missing the whole thing.
That's right.
Because remember, we eat physically and we eat spiritually. Right? And then we won't wind up with the fall of this.
Yes, sir,
the fall of what this.
Don't be a part of it. Anyway.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. Just don't be a part.
But it won't affect us.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And then we become the messengers. You see what I'm saying? See, Honorable Elijah Muhammad physically is not here in the physical form. But as long as we talk about him, as long as we activate what he's brought, his energy, his spirit that we're talking about would always manifest through us, and we'll be able to bring the message to the black man. Just like when we started about the conversation. Remember, the conversation was to bring to the public attention what is it that was infused in our spirit that's still permeating us in a negative way, that is a result of our ancestral slave experience that makes black men so haughty that they can't be patient with each other. You see what I'm saying? And this is all what we're doing. We're just bringing all of that full circle so we can understand. So those who hear us can start to understanding what is it that's causing this that we all concerned about: the violence, the murder, the disrespect, the demeaning, the demonicness that we see in ourselves and in our young people. You see? Yeah.
Right.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I wanted to read this because I said I was part of the envy It says, consider the envy of someone who envies some personal characteristic you have that is good, or some skills you have worked to develop for years. The envier is hating you for being what you are of good. The envier is denying parts of or the whole of you, your very being. The envier is saying, in effect, that the wise, that part of you are the whole of you did not exist. Your very existence becomes a reproach, a continuing source of irritation. To the envier, this could lead to a desire in the envier to murder you. So actually envy also can murder. So when you see a lot of us killing one another, shooting and whatever, part of that is jealousy, part of that is envy, part of that is hate, self-hatred. And the component to change all that is really coming into the knowledge of who we are, the knowledge of ourselves, man. We have the greatest knowledge that we ever can have is the knowledge of self and the knowledge of God.
Yes, sir.
And we all say God is love, which He is, and all we have to do is connect our power, ourself with that power.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? But we have to demonstrate the love for each other and to each other.
That's right.
And we have to continue to demonstrate that love to each other. I love you, brother. You don't see a lot of men say, "Well, brother, I love you," because we said, "No, I'm not going to tell that brother I love him." I'll say it to a woman. I ain't going to say it to a man. No.
Yeah.
See, but say that I love you. That is one of the
attributes of the Creator.
The attribute of the Creator,
Yeah.
where in fact that would bring us together.
Yes, sir.
And that would bring unity among each other.
Yes, sir.
Say, I love you, brother.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Ain't no funny stuff going on,
Yeah.
but I love you, brother.
Correct,
you know what I'm
correct,
saying?
correct.
So we need that. So we have to get that envy out. And what I want for myself, I want for my brother. I want for my sister. And that's the attitude that we have to have. We have to have that attitude that I want for me, I want for you.
That's right.
And these are the things that we're trying to do. I want you to come along with me. I want you to walk beside me. I want you to walk with me. I want you to think like I'm thinking. Come on, let's go ahead and make this thing happen.
Words are powerful. I like what you said. I remember.
Go ahead, Gabel.
It was a time, when the resurgence of consciousness, when we walked around, we referred to each other as my brother or my sister. And what that does, that takes on a whole paradigm of life on the self, because if we foreign and we start believing that that's my brother, that's my sister, we might want to act differently or show more love. It's easier to show love if you really believe that this is my brother and this is my sister. I just want to interject that.
And if it took 64 years to make a nigga or make a Negro, what is the reverse to bring us back to our original state of mind? Because in the Will of Lynch says it would be 300 years.
Yeah, it could last.
It can last for 300, but somehow it seems like it still lasts no 300 years. So what's wrong here? What's going on?
Well, that phenomenon, you said it.
To 1,000 years.
Yeah, the phenomenon to change that Willie Lynch cycle is knowing yourself.
Knowing yourself.
Loving yourself. You said it.
Right.
The knowledge of self and the love of the Creator.
Okay, we'd like to thank everyone, man. I think this was a fantastic roundtable discussion. And I know I got a lot out of it.
I got a lot out of it.
Energy is a beautiful thing.
The vibrations is off the chart.
Can you let them know about the meeting that we have too tomorrow?
Okay, yeah.
And every Saturday until we gonna go out into.
And this is for the public. We do this for the public because we want to be transparent, number one. And so we want to be able to bring this roundtable discussion. We have a YouTube channel, which is the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia. If you go there, you'll see what we posted as far as our organizing. This is our third roundtable discussion. We hope to bring more. But the goal is for us as black men to start to communicating with black people from a positive and constructive manner.
Right.
We meet every Tuesday from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Saturday.
Every Saturday, excuse me. every Saturday from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock at the Guardian Civil League, which is located at 1516 West Girard Avenue in the city of Philadelphia. So those who want to come and join us, you're more than welcome. And we just black men that come together to make a difference in our community. Yes. And we'd like to thank everyone for your attention, and we'd like to thank everyone here that came to this roundtable. And please send people to our YouTube channel.
Subscribe.
To subscribe, number one. But most important, to be able to sit down and hear this type of discussion. And hopefully it'll be helpful to transforming us from this kidnapped African that was enslaved back to our original African consciousness. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And please, to the mothers and to the fathers, let's reevaluate our family homes and let's look at our children, that one day they'll be adults and they'll be grown, and everything that you do, you reflect of their actions and say, this is how I was raised up. So you have a chance to raise your child. You have that chance. Don't blow it. Let's make it happen.
Yes.
Peace.
If I may, I would like to close on a little piece from the book of Gil. Probably heard it.
Okay.
Now, more than ever, all the family must be together. Every brother, everywhere, feels the time is in the air. Common blood flows common veins. Common eyes all see the same. Now, more than ever, all the family must be together. The BMC would like to thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you.